Okay, so we are on to step 2, actually building the infographic. Now we had downloaded those 3 files, the California map and the 2 icons, and I essentially took them from my download folder and just put them in a folder called Infograph. I'm going to make sure and see where this is saved. I'm going to go File, Save As, and I am going to save it to my desktop into my Infograph folder right there. And you can see that's also where I saved my 3 images as well that I need for this. So I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now I have saved that. So now we need to build our infographics. We're going to put the map here, the bar graph here, and the line graph here. So let's get started. The first thing actually we're going to do is build a little banner across here. So we need a title for our infographic. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my rectangle tool, or you can hit M on your keyboard. I'm not going to worry about the color for right now. I'm just going to pull it across here. And you can see how those guides are helping me with getting things evenly spaced. And something like that. I'm going to hit I on my eyedropper, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this color here from my color scheme. And I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Pull it down a little bit. Now from here, there's different ways you could go about making a banner. Actually, let me show you real quick. I'm going to pull this up here. But if you wanted to go, there's a different route you could go with making a banner. There's some preset banners in Illustrator. So if you hit your brushes over here and you go to the library, the brush library menu here, and you go to decorative, you're going to see decorative banners and seals. You can click on that. And then you'll see you have these different preset banners that are put in here. I'm not a huge fan of these. They're a little bit chintzy, but you could take one and simply drag it to your desktop and you would have a banner there. And then you can resize it as you want. And that's not bad. And you can even change the colors by using your direct selection tool, or A on your keyboard. You can select different parts of it to change colors. So I could select this, hit I for my eyedropper, and change that to blue, or to that color green I have there. But I'm going to skip that. I'm not a big fan of those banners, but it's up to you. If you want to use one, you can. You will traditionally see this banner. Let me go back there. So it's brushes, brushes menu, our brushes library, decorative, and then banners and seals. You'll traditionally see, let's see, this one used a lot. Oops. And you can see now it's added to my brushes menu. So I could also drag it from there too. I'm going to go ahead and close that, but then I can make this big. And you might see this one used quite a bit too in infographics. So it's there as well. Something for you to think about. And you can change each of these colors again, once again, by using your direct selection tool. You can select different parts of it. Be careful here. You need to change that color too if you decide to go with this banner. But it's a nice looking banner as well. So if you want to go with that, that's fine. I like to kind of do things on my own, see if I can come up with something myself. And so one of the things you can do to do this is basically use the warp effect to create like an arc or a flag in Illustrator. So if you go Effect at the top menu here and Warp, now you've got all these options. You've got arc, you've got flag, different things that you could do here. And you can play with these parameters to kind of create different effects. Like I could change this and get a much more wavy effect if I wanted. So that's up to you. You kind of want to play with these and see what you come up with. There's tons of different ones in here. Actually, I'm going to cancel out of that and go back just to show you some of the other ones real quick. Got upper arc, lower arc. Tons of different ones in here that you can play around with. I think for today, I'm just going to do the arc, and I kind of like that. It looks like it's kind of like a banner for a race. I think I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to hit OK. So there we've kind of got a banner there. I might move it up just a little bit. Kind of going to the edge so it looks like it's being hung up there a little bit. Now I want to create a title for my piece coming across here. Now I noticed that this my arc here I could put text straight across here, but it's not going to look as cool because of this arch. I want to mimic that arch. So how I would do that to put text across that arch is I'd simply take my pen tool. I need to turn off my colors, so I'm going to hit the slash on my fill. I'm going to put a point here. By one click, I'm going to click here and drag to kind of get me an arch feel. And I think I'm going to go with something like that. I'm just going to hit V on my keyboard. Now I basically can use the type on a path tool to type along this path. So if you go under your T or your type tool, you'll see type on a path. I'm going to select that. There's the path right there. Click once, and then you can start typing. I'm going to call mine Jane's Training Data. And then I'm going to select that and grab my eyedropper, I on your keyboard, and oops. I'm sorry, actually, I'm going to change the font first. Up here, you'll see where your font is. If you don't see a font up here, Command T will bring up your fonts. I'm just going to change this to a simple Arial. That is not Arial. There's Arial. And I'm going to play with the size a little bit. That is too big. 36. I'm going to try 40. That looks perfect. Okay. Then I am going to now try to change the color. Let's see what we got here. I am going to actually I'll stick with that. That looks all right to me. So there we have it. We have, move it over a little bit, have Jane's Training Data. Looks like a little banner, like it was erased, so that'll work great for us. So we've got our title done. Next thing we need to do is bring in the map of California for our first infographic, which we'll put here in this part of the grid. So we're going to go File, and then Place. And there it is in my infograph folder. Place. And I'm just going to click, and there it is. Now, in order to resize this, to keep the size proportionate, we need to hold the Shift key down, grab the corner, and drag. And then I'm going to let go of the Shift key and pull California up there. I think, make it just a little bit bigger, and it's going to hang over into the second grid here, just because of the shape of it. And maybe I'll pull about right there. That's good. Now, I need to change the color because this does not fit within my color scheme. So I'm just going to select it, and you can see up here at the top my colors. So I am going to go with that lighter green. Let's see. Yeah, I will just go with the lighter green and the stroke of white. So there we go. We've got California in there. And this is going to show the cities where Jane has ran her 10Ks. So you'll notice in your infographic exercise sheet that I showed you from PolyLearn, we need to highlight the following cities: San Luis, Redding, Monterey, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Santa Cruz. Now, as I said in class, I'm not from California, and I don't know where half of these places are, so please forgive me. I'm getting better at it here, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of them to give you an example. So, I'm going to find Los Angeles, which I'm going to guess is there. Forgive me. Well, actually, I'm sorry. First, you need to use your direct selection tool, which is A on your keyboard. And so we're going to change the color. We're going to say this is Los Angeles. Actually, we'll call that Los Angeles. Let's say San Luis Obispo's in here. San Fran is up here. Let's say Santa Cruz and Monterey are up here. I'm just kind of making this up. You can play with this yourself, and Redding is up here. So essentially, we want to change those colors to show those are the ones she ran in. So I'm going to hit I for my eyedropper, and let's grab this darker brown here. And I'm going to hit V to come off of that. And now you can see those are the places, the cities that she ran. Now you want to be more geographical accurate than I am, so spend your time on picking the correct places. But just for a point of example, this is just a good place to show you how to change the colors with that direct selection tool. So essentially, with the direct selection tool, or A on your keyboard, I just clicked one, held the shift key down, and clicked to the next one I wanted. And then I simply hit I and change my colors. So now with that, we want to kind of label some of the cities she's in. Well, first thing we need to do is we can even make this a little more highlighted with the cities. Let's go ahead and grab our circle tool, our ellipse tool. I'm going to put like little, what will look like little dots on each city to make it look a little more official. So I'm just going to hold my shift key down and pull out a circle. And I'm going to hit I on my keyboard to choose a color. Let's go with that light tan. And I am going to go ahead and stroke it with the white as well. So there is that. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, Command plus, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And now I can kind of place these into the different places. So I'm going to hold the Option key down to duplicate. So I'm literally holding Option, clicking and dragging to get a duplicate. Option, click, drag to get a duplicate. Option, click, drag. Same thing. Over and over here just to kind of duplicate these. And I could go back and make these a little bit smaller so that they fit into the states a little bit better, or into the, cities. That's not bad though. That's kind of what I'm wanting. I'm going to just hit my space bar to grab my hand and just move this over a little bit. So there we are. The last thing we need to do here is kind of write in the names of the cities. I'm just going to do one and you can do the rest. So I'm going to go back to my text tool, click and hold, and then pull into the type tool because we're on a type and a path. And let's say this is Los Angeles down here. Obviously my font is way too big, so I'm just going to lower that to 12. Right, I'm going to write Los Angeles. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to maybe choose something from my palette here. Remember how I did that? Once I had it loaded in my color themes, I was able just to right click and add to swatches. So that's how I got it in there. So if you didn't see that, if you are connected to Adobe Cooler and when you go to save your, let me go back there real quick, just for some of you who haven't seen this. So in Adobe Cooler, if you're logged in after you've created an account, so you've created an account and you're logged in, you can see I'm logged in here. And you go to Explore, you find the theme you want. If you click on it and you hit Save, this will allow you to save it to your Creative Cloud library, My Library. Once you've done that, it'll show up in your library in Illustrator. And all of these themes are from there, automatically added. So, like for instance, if I click on this one here and I hit Save, it's going to save it to my library, hit Save. That is not working for some reason. Let me try a different one. No, it's not letting me save it, but typically if you just hit save, it'll save it, and then it'll appear in your color themes over here. So anyway, I'm going to change the color of this. Let's see. You know what? I am just going to leave it black. That's a fine color. Now I'm going to draw a line from here to here just to kind of highlight which city goes with which geographical spot here. So you'll see your line tool here. Just grab your line tool. Hold your shift key down if you want to draw a straight line. And actually, this is important too. We need there to be no fill. And because we're, oops, I'm sorry. I'm still on the text there. So you need to click off, grab V, your selection tool, and click on your artboard. And now let's grab our line tool. We need to have no fill. And we want to just use stroke here. And you can see here's my stroke line. I'm going to just change this to basic. And now hold shift if you want to draw a straight line. And there you go. And so I think I might move that up a little bit and move Los Angeles up a little bit. So there is the first city. I want you to complete the rest of them. So you'll put in the rest of the cities along just how I did it here. Okay, so let's move on to our second graph, which is the bar graph. And we're going to put it right here. So if you hit J on your keyboard, that'll highlight where the graphs are. So, and fortunately, we just need to start with a column graph anyway. Really, the three you'll be dealing with is a column graph, the line graph tool, and the pie graph tool. So the line graph, the bar graph here is essentially column graph is going to help us make a bar graph. So you're going to draw the size of it in your grid right here. I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger like that. Now this is like a spreadsheet where you enter the data. So you want to enter the data going, this is column 1, this is column 2. So we're going to put on the sheet from Polylearn, this is her time in each 10K in minutes. This will be the city, and this will be the time. So I'm just going to enter these really quick. So slow. Let's see. I'm going to go Monterey. That's a tough one to spell. Then we're going to go Reading. And then we'll go LA. Santa Cruz, and you can put these in any order you want. I'm not really going down off the sheet. And then I'm just going to say San Fran, and there you have it. And then I'm going to enter in the numbers here, and I'm just going to make these up, but you can follow the sheet on there. This is just for time's sake. So that this video is not too large. And so then there are my numbers. So you always want to go column A with your first data variable, column A with your second data variable. Now, if you hit the check mark, they should appear now in your graph. And there you go. So we're in good shape there. Let's go ahead and just close out the data. Now, and let's hit V on our keyboard. Click on the artboard over here. So if you ever want to get back to the data, just click on the graph once with the selection tool, then control click or right click on a PC, control click or right click on a PC. So control click on a Mac, and then choose data there, and then there's your data. So don't forget that. So if you want to get back in there, either control click on a Mac or right click on a PC, and then there's your data. So we need to change some things here. Now, it's a little bit hard to change things within these graphs because they're automatically generated by Illustrator, but here's some quick tips on how you might do that. So there's two ways that you can, you need to select these individual parts, whether it's the columns or the text, in order to change them. So let's start with this text. We're a little bunched down here. There's two ways to do this. You can either do it with your direct selection tool, hitting A on your keyboard, click the first one, and then hold shift and keep clicking each one of them as you go. There's a bit easier way. Under the direct selection tool right here is a group selection tool. If you take that and you just draw a marquee around what you want, which in this case is the text, it'll select all of them. That makes it a little bit easier. So this is a little bit big. They're hard to read, so I'm going to take them down, and there I'm a little bit better. And maybe I'll go just a little more. All right, so now we're fitting fine. I'm going to do the same with these on this side. So I'm going to click once. And actually, this is kind of cool. If you click once and then click twice, it'll select everything within that group there. And I'll take these down to 11. It's a little more conforming to what I'm after. Now, if I want to change the color of any of this, I simply can. I can also change the font too. Oops. So now it's not letting me do that. So just by marqueing over it again with your group selection tool, you can change the font up here. I can change the colors if I wanted. I can hit I on my keyboard, and I could change these to, that's not looking great, so I won't do that. I could change them to the green if I want, but yeah, I think we'll go with that there. And I could change these in as well with my group selection tool and coming over these and hitting I on my keyboard. A little bit hard to read, but it's okay for this point here. So then if I want to change my graph here, grab my group selection tool, click on one of the columns and then click again, and that'll select all of them. Hit I for your dropper, and I think we'll go with that color. My color scheme is a bit clashy, so I've got to be careful. So it might not be the ideal color scheme as I'm looking at it here. It's a bit clashy, but for the sake of argument, this is just a demo. So I might select these again, and I might try, I'm going to go with that darker brown this time, just to show some contrast between the two. Oops, I got to make sure I'm on my group selection tool. And I on my eyedropper. Okay, there we go. I can even change the marks, the tick marks coming across. So if I click once and click twice, that'll select all of those. And then I can change the color of that. I can hit I on my keyboard. And I might try this tan. Actually, I'm sorry. What I need to do here is when it comes to lines, you always want to think about not doing the fill. So I'm going to hit slash there. Hit X to bring the stroke. So whenever you're doing lines in graphs, always think the stroke. And then I'm going to try that lighter tan. And then there we go. So there I have my graph kind of built. Say you want to highlight one of these for a different color. I'm going to grab my group selection tool, just select that once. And I might then want to highlight that one because it is the biggest one. So I might try a different color to do that. That might help. That'll highlight that one, and maybe I want to highlight the shortest one by changing the color on that. All right, so there's our bar graph. There are a couple things I want you to remember in here. In order, you can change some of the other things in here. So let's go hit V on our keyboard for our selection tool, and let's right click or control click on a Mac and go to type. Now under type, you can literally change the type of graph here. You can add a drop shadow, but I wouldn't do it. It looks horrible. You can change the column width here, but I wouldn't do that either. It doesn't work great. But under here, you have value axis and category axes. I'm sorry. So under value axis, you can do things like change the tick mark. I could change it to short, which would then make my tick marks just short along here. And then I got to control right click or control click to get back in there. Hit type. But we'll go back to value axes, but I liked them long or full width, so I'm going to leave them full width. But let's say I wanted to add a suffix to show that this was minutes. I simply just put IM in there, and that will add a suffix here. If you want to put a prefix in, you can as well. So this is the value axes. If you wanted to change the category axes here, you could do that here. Draw tick marks between lines. If you didn't want the tick marks, you could take them out. If you wanted them short or full width, you could put them there as well. So something to remember. Hit OK, and there we go. It added my minutes. And notice I put a space and then I typed minute. That allowed there to be a space here. It's not intuitive. If you don't put the space, it won't put it in there. Maybe you want the space, maybe you don't. It's up to you. And the tick marks came back. So remember, this is your value axes, and this is your category axes that you can change whenever you want. Now, you cannot resize these graphs like you can this map, because or like a shape. You know how we can grab the corner and change it? We can grab the corner and change the size. We cannot do that with the graphs that Illustrator makes. So what you have to do, the only way to size it is to find your scale tool, or if you just simply hit S on your keyboard, there it is. There's your scale tool. Now you can scale this. I would hold shift down to keep things proportionate. Say you wanted it a little bit smaller, it's taking up a little too much space. There you go. Make sure you hold your shift key down so it's proportionate, and it'll make it whatever size you want. That's a little too small for my taste. There, I'm liking that. So don't forget S for scale. That's the only way you can scale these graphs that Illustrator makes. And I'm going to pull that down a little more like that. And actually, I'm going to take all of California and pull it down just a little bit more, because I realize that I want to put some titles in here real quick. So I want to say what this map is. So I'm just going to grab my text tool, and you want to label your maps so people know what they are, obviously. So I'm going to label this cities where Jane ran 10 Ks. So people know exactly what they're looking at. And I'm just going to leave that black. I might make it a little bit bigger, holding my shift key down. I'm still in my Arial font. I'm going to keep everything Arial. Consistent fonts is important. And if I wanted to kind of highlight this, I could maybe put a little box behind it. Change the color. Let's make it brown. Actually, I'll go that light tan. And then obviously we have to send it to the back. So if you click it once, if you right click or shift click on a Mac and go arrange, send to back, that'll send it to the back. So now we've kind of labeled our graph here. I might want to play with that color just for a minute. But for the sake of time, I'm going to move on. So I know I want to kind of do the same thing here. I want to give this a label as well. So I might just select both of these, hold my Option key down, and pull. Do I like it there? Yeah, I think that's fine. And then I'm going to label this Jane's Times in each 10K by minute. I'll just kind of move that over a little bit, and there I've labeled that one as well. So there are my, and I could play with these if I wanted to. Maybe I put a little arch on those if I wanted to. I could go back to Effect. I could apply the arch there and do the same thing with the pen tool there if I wanted to. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to worry about that. So the last one you want to do here is you need to add the line graph in, and that's for running distance in the month before each race. So let's go ahead and grab, remember J to pull. If you can't find the graph tool, just always hit J and it'll be highlighted. If you go down here to the line graph tool and select it, we essentially have to do the same thing. In order to get the graph to show up, we have to draw it in first. So I'm actually gonna draw it. I'm gonna split the difference here and do something about like that. And then we just need to enter our data on that sheet that was in Polylearn under Infographics exercise. So we have months here. We have June, July, and I'll let you finish the rest of these. I'll just do a couple. Maybe I'll abbreviate August. Same with September. So you'll need to add in all of these and finish this graph. I'm going to enter in the times. These might not. I'm just going to enter in things just because, for the sake of time, I don't want this video to be super long and have to download for 17 days. So just for the sake of argument, I've entered some numbers. Same thing, column 1 for the months, column 2 for your data, for your numbers. Hit the apply button here, and there you go. There is your line graph. So I'm going to go ahead and check out of my data. So I want to do the same thing. I want to adjust the colors, adjust the size. So I'm going to hit S for scale because automatically it's bothering me. It's a little bit too big. And make sure you hold the shift key down when you resize it. There we go. And then I'm going to hit V, oops, just to move it over a little bit. And I like the idea. I'm kind of making the viewer go boom, boom, boom. It's kind of a nice way to lead the viewer's eye there. And then I'm going to change my colors, right? So that's up to you how you want to do that. You want to make sure to keep it within your color scheme. Also, you want to make sure to label what your graph is so people know. Then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add in. So you want to finish off that graph. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to place some other elements just for fun. Some of those things we downloaded, those two icons. So here's the woman running. So I'm just going to throw her in here just kind of as a nice element to add in. So two things here. You're going to notice right here, there is credited by Christian Moyer. You want to give him credit in your sources. So make sure you remember that, write it down. So in your sources, you credit them if you use an icon from the Noun project. But I'm going to delete that for now because obviously it doesn't look good in there. But remember to use that in your sources. So choose your direct selection tool or A on your keyboard. Select it, delete, select it, delete. I'm going to hit V to go back to my selection tool, select her, and I want to change her to fit in my color scheme. So I can just go to the swatches. And let's see, I'm going to go that light green here. And so there we have her. Actually, I'm going to go the dark green. So many decisions to make. And so then I could put one of her there, maybe make her a little bigger, hold my Option key down, maybe put one of her over here, maybe make her a little bit smaller like she's running away in the distance. So there you go, something you can play with. And in terms of the shoe, you could do the same thing. If you go File, Place, same idea. Hit A to grab your direct selection tool. Remember to give credit there. Delete, delete. I could change the color of the shoe if I wanted to, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to select it with my selection tool or V on your keyboard, make it smaller, and then I'm going to put it in my graph. I'm going to kind of match that line running down. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Maybe a little smaller. And then I'm going to duplicate it by holding Option down. And you know you're duplicating it because you'll see the double arrow there. That means the duplication is going to happen. So make sure it's selected with the V, hit Option. You see the two arrows, you've got a duplication. Then I'll rotate it to kind of match this line, which looks like about there. And you can do the same thing moving forward on the way out. That's kind of a way you could add in some logos to give some interest there. So there's just one way you could do it. Don't forget you need to title that. And you've got this nice kind of thing working its way down. So one last thing just to show you, and my colors might clash here, but just for your own information, you could put a whole color background behind here. You could even put an image, but you want to make sure it doesn't distract from what you got going on. So I'm going to hit I for my eyedropper. I'm just going to take that light color. And then I can right click and or control click and say arrange, send to back. Also, if you get in trouble with that and you can't find where the layers are, right here. So we still got our grid layer on, but I can turn it off if I want to. And notice I've got some open space here, which is fine. But you'll notice here all of your layers. You are not, Illustrator is automatically adding each layer within layer 2. So every time you add something, it automatically does it for you. But you can see right here is that rectangle I put in. So you can move this just like you could in Illustrator if you want, wherever you need to. That's another way you can arrange layers. Get it down there. And if you want to lock that layer so that when you select something else, it doesn't move. Because if you don't lock it, it's going to move your background, which is never fun. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that. But before I do, notice it took out my color there. That's fine. So maybe I would go back, choose my direct selection tool, select that one, and pick a different color so that things still stand out. Maybe I go the brown there. So there we go. So that's one way. If you wanted to add a background, you could add a background like that. You can turn your grids off then once you're done. But the grids really help organize things. You want to make sure to have them. And so there you go. There's kind of a very quick and simple way you might build your infographic. And I just noticed I lost my colors there. I can kind of just do that to get those back as well. So, all right, so there you go. Hopefully that helps out some. All right.